Let's get started. Again, my name is Mike Kelly, the CTO of Blue Medora. And at Blue Medora, we are an IT performance monitoring company. So we're entirely focused on separating out the data collection piece of IT performance monitoring, which is what we do, from the data analysis piece of IT performance monitoring, which is what our partners are doing. And to give you a little background on this and help you understand why this is important, what we've seen over the past 5 to 10 years are some very significant advances in the monitoring platforms themselves. We see that in their adoption of machine learning, new vendors that are coming into the space, existing vendors that are making big improvements in their products. But while those platforms are innovating at the core platform level, what we've seen is that over and over again, they tend to neglect or are a little bit slow on the integrations piece. So all of the technologies that you see inside of your data center, it's very difficult for a company that is either a new vendor or even existing vendors to support all of those and get that data into their analytics platform. And there are a couple reasons. One is it may not be a core competency for that company. Maybe there's a competitor. It's a competitor, but our customers and the customers that are using those platforms really want to expand the aperture of that so they can see everything inside of their data center within whichever monitoring platform they happen to be using. They want to see consistent quality across all of these integrations. That's an area where we see where that can lack quite a bit. They want these to be updated frequently so that they're always up to date. They want to understand the relationships between components in the stack. And those are all some of the challenges that we see, that our customers see in the monitoring space. And so this is where we fit in. What we have is a library of over 150 integrations across the data center. So this goes from databases to compute, network, storage, hardware, to cloud services like AWS, Azure, and others. We have integrations for all of those, and we provide a layer to provide that data to over 12 or nearly 12 specific IT performance monitoring platforms. And because monitoring integrations is all we do it very well. What we found is if you do the integrations very well, that you have a cascading impact. It's a significant impact on the platform itself. So you can go a lot further if you understand, for example, the relationship between all of these data center technologies that you're monitoring than you could if they were separate, or if the data is flat and it doesn't have this dimensional components to it as well. So I mentioned we have 150 integrations. Our core focus is on connecting monitoring engines to the customer's IT stacks, wherever that may be, to allow them to use the platform of their choice to monitor their entire data center. We don't only provide the breadth, so I mentioned 150, but it's not just that we provide coverage for all of the data center technologies. We also have the depth that matches any of the technologies out there, is almost always far beyond what other monitoring companies are doing. We're very responsive to updates, so APIs are changing constantly. For us, most of our integrations are updated multiple times per year. And in many cases, we have a relationship with the vendor, so we have a 0-day release. So if a new API comes out, we're beta testing it along with the vendor, and we provide those the same day that the API is released. And the intent is to expand, not replace. So a lot of times it can be confusing to people who just hear about Blue Medora. We're not a monitoring platform company, right? We work with monitoring platforms to expand the visibility into your data center.
What exactly is that integration? Is that something where you guys custom write with the partner?
Expose that through your API so they don't have to expose it through their API? Is that really the goal?
Yeah, and there are a couple of different variations, but almost always we're partnering with both the platform and those technologies themselves. So if it's a storage array.
And you're trying to keep the API consistent. People just have to interface with your API as opposed to trying to figure out.
There's one, and then it's understanding the technology, keeping it up to date so that it's not, one of the things that you'll find if you're dealing with monitoring is frequently, if you try and integrate with another platform, you maybe are using technology that hasn't been, or a integration that hasn't been updated in a couple of years, very quickly that's out of date and essentially useless. So unless somebody is on that and revving it constantly, you find yourself in a lot of trouble.
So that's part of the value proposition you guys provide. You're maintaining it, you're keeping it up to date. You don't have to worry about figuring that out.
And then the next big piece is one of the things that you rarely see is understanding how these relate to one another. So just to give you a simple example, right, a VMware related example, you may have a database running on VMware, running on a storage array, running on, let's say it's a Dell compute system, something like that. A lot of monitoring systems would just monitor all of those separately. And so they're all siloed. So you know the performance of each individual one. What we're doing is we're saying, well, here's the performance of the database, and I'm going to link that to the virtual machine that it's running on so you can see the performance of the virtual machine. And we're going to link that virtual machine down to the compute that it's running on. And the data store is then going to be connected to the storage array. When you have visibility into all of that, that's a lot more value than separating them out and looking at them individually.
Great.
So we're going to talk about two things specifically today. We do monitoring integrations for both on-prem systems as well as cloud systems. Today we'll talk about our vRealize operations management packs. So this is where we've taken over 60 of those integrations we talked about. We've packaged them into management packs and bundled them together with vRealize operations so that we can provide visibility into all those other areas of the data center that out of the box VMware doesn't do. Because our customers, they love working with vRealize. They want to use it for more than just VMware. They want to use it for their entire data center. So when you add in Blue Medora and what we call our True Visibility Suite, you open up that aperture so you can see everything inside of your data center. You can extend it out to AWS, for example, to Azure or other cloud environments, and you get a single view of everything in your environment.
So a quick question on the management packs.
Yeah.
There's a lot of service providers that use vCloud Director and VROps as kind of their management, monitoring, and operations suite.
Yeah.
VCD 9.5 opened up the extensibility framework into the HTML5 UI. Do you guys have any intentions or thoughts about taking the functionality you provide in the management pack and allowing it to integrate directly with the VCD APIs as opposed to into VROps, and then from there it folds in?
It's a really good question, and we've explored it in the past and earlier on. They've come a lot further now, so it's another area where we're looking at it much more closely because we do see that as a big opportunity for expanding. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I just want to add to Blue Medora is part of the vCloud provider program as well. We are on the customer price list in that scenario and have dealt with several multi-tenant configurations. But primarily with those use cases, it's within VROps, within that realm. That's what really our customers are looking for, but perhaps that's something we could revisit now that there's more functionality.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of sites that have more than one monitoring tool for various reasons. One for the data center, one for their applications. And you listed a bunch of them that are out that are generally used. What's the licensing like if I have more than one I'm feeding? So if I had to get vRealize management packs for vRealize, but I also vRealize operations, I should say, but I also want to use it for New Relic. Is it just one price, or is it buy as you go? How does this work? Because it sounds like I need to go piecemeal, and that would be like a really painful thing.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and this is, and we'll talk a little bit more about it further on. But yes, this is something that we bundle it together. So in the vast majority of cases, there's an option to get these extensions for all the platforms that you want under a single contract.
Okay.
Yep. The other one that we wanted to talk about today is Biplane. And this is a newer product for us. It's been out less than a year now. But this is a SaaS service or SaaS application. It is the first of its kind. We call it a monitoring integrations as a service. And the concept behind this is that particularly for cloud or SaaS monitoring solutions, we want to make it as simple as possible to manage the life cycle of your integrations and have a single source for all of your integrations. So what we've done is we've taken all the integrations that we already had available. These are under the covers. This is the exact same solution. So these are libraries that we've been using for your ops, other platforms for years now, are getting upgraded regularly. But now using Biplane, we can send that same data to a number of SaaS solutions, New Relic, Wavefront, Microsoft OMS, Google Stack Driver, and others. It becomes very easy. And you can do that with one integration. So one agent, you put one Biplane agent inside of your environment, collect data for all the things that you want to monitor, and then fork that out into any platform that you're planning to use. And we'll dig more into that in just a minute.
Will it work with non-SaaS related options? Because if I could use Biplane to do exactly what I was talking about before.
Yeah. So it will work with those. What we found, the challenge from customers, or what we're hearing from customers, is if it's something that's on-prem, we'd rather not send the data up to the cloud and back down. But if that's not an issue, then we can use it in any of those situations.
Biplane works by not just having a collector, but also sending it up to a SaaS.
Yes.
And then you send it from there.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, that piece I was missing.
Gotcha.
No.
Okay.
In a lot of cases, you're absolutely right. That would not be welcome.
But of course, but ultimately, it's not a technical challenge. It's really just whether the customer would like that or
It's a
not.
security challenge, so yes, it is a technical challenge.
Is there some way of controlling what data or metrics go up to the service?
Yes.
I not let others go while some can.
Sure. Yeah, it's fully configurable. So everything that you see, all of those integrations, we can turn those on and off. And you can do that at the integration level. You can do it at the what we call resource level. So each maybe if it's a database, it has resources like the database, instances, queries, several different components, maybe the tables. You can turn each of those off, or you can go all the way down into an individual metric.
So different countries define PII very, very different than each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like China now defines IP addresses and usernames and other things as being PII. Others are even more stringent than that.
Yeah.
When you start thinking about that, can you tokenize, redact, encrypt, do something to the data before it gets pushed up into your cloud so that it actually meets those requirements?
So there are a couple of ways that we solve that. One is we don't have redaction capabilities yet. We allow you to eliminate it. So as opposed to tokenizing, you can reduce it, right? And then with some specific cases, like query monitoring, for example, we do, in those cases, allow something like a tokenization, where you can eliminate anything that's inside of the query and just comes up as a token.
It'd be really cool if you actually had a configurable JSON type thing that I could configure and just say, run this filter with these rules for all my data. That way I have one place to control it all. It's part of your plane, because it has to happen before even egresses my network. Mm-hmm. And if you just do it for me, compliance doesn't know what you're doing, so they can't say it's actually valid. So then we have to go back to you and back and forth. And it becomes a very long tail to that. But if you had something that we can control, it's very easy. Here's my rules. Have fun.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's a great point. And PII has become incredibly difficult or challenging these days with
GDPR and all that. That would make that a lot easier.
Sure.
And then I could say, oh, tokenize, remove, whatever, right there.
Yeah.
As part of those rules.
Okay.
So going back to your SaaS offering, to get the monitoring information, the analytics back, is it near real time? What type of delay are we talking about?
Great question. So from the time of collection to the time that it'll show up, it actually hits the platform is roughly 1 second, or in that range. The time for the platform then to analyze it is going to be dependent on which one we're going to. So some of them are almost instant, and some of them will take maybe 5 minutes for it to show up inside of their environment.
So are you doing anything to control the amount of data that flows from the on-prem environment into this SaaS?
Great question.
Yeah. So that's where the fine-grained controls come in, because that's a problem, or it can be a challenge, right? It depends on how much you want. We provide potentially a lot of data That's part of what we're doing, right? But what we also allow you to do is just pick, maybe you just want a few of the key performance indicators. And it's really easy to just say, that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to pass those along. So there are two issues, right? There's the data being sent out of your network, right? There's network traffic costs. There's also costs on the platform side itself. So consuming those metrics in a SaaS platform, you're going to pay for every single one of those.
And potentially it's a lot of duplicate data.
Sure.
I mean, if your database is running hot, your virtual machine is running hot as well, and your physical server might be. So are you doing anything to, well, dedupe is not the correct term, but reduce the amount of data that signals the same problem?
Sure.
Or to ask the question in a different way, are you processing the data before you send it out?
So we do a decent amount of processing, although I wouldn't call it dedupe, right? There's processing in terms of what we reduce things to, and that's the primary case, right? We're saying, well, maybe it's just KPIs, and it's going to be it's going to be a subset of what we do. And then there's a lot of processing that is actually maybe adding data that may be the opposite of what you're talking about, but that's where we add on relationship data or we add on metadata, and that can be turned on and off as well.
You guys have the whole concept of capacity definitions, so that stuff's all looked at locally before it's shipped up and processed. So anyone who's trying to stitch together a set of rules about what's going on, that capacity definition happens first before it actually hammers out. So
also to build on to the concept about filtering data, when you turn off, say for example, if you're collecting on a storage array, it doesn't really make sense to actually grab the individual metrics on the individual disks, right? Unless you're in a very small environment. If you turn that off, we're not going to make those calls to the APIs even. So we just basically ignore that particular function. So it's all configurable and really reduces the load on those particular APIs.
So if I actually wanted that for whatever reason, maybe forensics analysis or something, could you dump it from Biplane to a local storage device that I can then pump up at a later date?
I missed the very beginning of that question.
So I may want that data for
which data was that?
Performance metrics are actually a really early warning sign for security and other technological issues. When I get a lot of, my system goes nuts, it really means I need to do something. But I may not want all that detail sent because it's just going to cost me a lot. So I want it stored locally and only pumped to where I need to go when I need it. So like kind of pumping historical data to do an analysis when the incident response team needs it. Because collecting old data after the fact is impossible.
Right.
But I may not want it in my performance analysis tool. I want it for my incident response people.
Yeah, be able to do forensics.
Yeah. So what we have right now is on what we call the collector. So it's where we're actually gathering all the data locally. It has a cache that's configurable in terms of how much data you want to keep there, and that's essentially what you're describing. And it's not designed for forensics, but it would basically perform the same
How
task.
big can I make this?
It's limited based on resources. So how big is the box?
So like several terabytes would be fine.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. That would solve that part of that problem. But how did I take that data then and inspect it or move it into something else so I can do these forensics analysis?
So by default, once it gets to a certain size, that cache data is written to disk. So that would be available in files on disk. So that's essentially log files that are available to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.